Good morning, YouTube. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day out there. Welcome to another episode of Life of Brian. In my second installment of Musings from a BJJ black belt, I wanted to discuss the benefits of having a good defense as opposed to a good offense, especially as a newer belt, as someone who's new to jiu-jitsu, even someone who is a blue belt or an early purple belt in their journey. I think that having a very strong and effective and efficient defensive game will actually benefit your jiu-jitsu more quickly, and will actually have an additional benefit of also benefiting your offensive game as well. And I'll just take a few minutes to explain here. So, Roger, depending on what side of the ocean you're on, is generally considered the greatest jiu-jitsu player of all time, most certainly in the gi. And very early on in my jiu-jitsu journey, probably around blue belt, I remember reading a quote from him which said that basically once he got his blue belt, his goal was to be untappable, where no one could ever tap him. And I think, according to his bio that I read, that since when he got his blue belt, he was never tapped. Certainly not in competition. And I remember watching videos of him on YouTube and at the Worlds or at ADCC and all super fights, all sorts of certain tournaments. And I've obviously never seen him tap. Obviously, there's a few famous matches where he lost by points or a decision to Shanji, or the famous Jacare fight where Jacare got his arm broken, but he basically just ran around until the time ran out. But you never saw Hadra getting submitted. And I remember very early on, as a blue belt, thinking about that and thinking to myself that that's, again, he's the greatest jiu-jitsu player of all time in the gi for sure. And if that's his philosophy, it can't hurt to try it. So very early on in my journey, guys, I really focused on my defense and really kind of emphasizing my defensive game and making sure that basically it wasn't easy for someone to tap me. And having a really good defense, guys, also, you wouldn't think about it, but you wouldn't realize it at the time, but having a very strong defense actually benefits you on the offensive side as well, because, for example, let's say you're defending a triangle, right? Well, that in order for them to most effectively and efficiently get you to tap, one arm in, one arm out, obviously they can break posture down, that helps as well. And depending on kind of the positioning, are you stacking, are you not stacking? Does their foot have to go on your hip? Do they have to kind of cut the angle a little bit more to get a tighter choke? Are they trying to press their knees together to get the choke tighter, or are they basically trying a different technique? Kind of knowing what offensively has to be done, or even in an arm bar, for example, that in order for them to extend the arm, get the thumb up, pointing in the right direction, they obviously have to break your grip, and then obviously once they break the grip, they have to keep the thumb going. It could be belly down as well, but your arm has to be obviously extended in a certain direction in order for you to have the proper breaking mechanics to get the tap. And defensively, when you're defending an arm bar or a triangle, you have to know offensively what the other person is trying to do, right? Like if you're defending a cross choke, I learned, because obviously you don't really invent anything new in jiu-jitsu, I learned a very effective cross choke defense from watching a Henry Akins video, who's a Gracie Rickson Gracie black belt. And actually, I've learned a lot of my techniques, specifically my defensive techniques, from watching Henry Akins. I highly recommend him, guys. He has a website. You can get his videos. He has a great Instagram page that he gives a lot of free tips, a lot of free knowledge on. But in terms of defending the cross choke, you know that in order for them to choke you, they have to obviously have the one hand in the gi, but they also have to get the other hand in, whether that's on top, underneath. But there has to be some sort of, you know, connection to your neck, and most of the time, it is actually possible to do a cross choke without actually pulling the person to you, but most people don't know how to do that. So most people will try to pull you in, you know, into their chest and kind of expand their arms, which technically you shouldn't do either. But most people try to pull you in to finish the cross choke. And one of the defenses that I use, among many, is I prevent the person from being able to pull me in to their chest or towards them to tighten the choke. And obviously I try to prevent the connection to my neck as well. But that's kind of what my point is in saying that when you have a good defense, you recognize, you anticipate the steps, the progression that the offensive player has to make in order to break down your certain layers and levels of defense, if you will, to actually get the tap. You know, you don't just bump fists and then someone just jumps on your arm and you tap immediately. There's a number of steps and progressions they have to take. It may be fast, but there are those steps they have to go through in order to get to the point where, you know, their breaking mechanics are correct so that a tap is necessary. Same thing for a straight ankle lock, a heel hook, a rear naked choke, whatever the case may be. So having a strong defense, guys, actually helps your offensive game, because it forces you to understand and actually be efficient in your offensive game. Because if you don't know offensively how to do a proper armbar, how to do a proper cross choke, how to do a proper rear naked choke, how to do a proper straight ankle lock, then you're not going to be able to defend it. If you know how to, the proper mechanics, the proper angles, the proper leverage, weight distribution in order to get the tap offensively, then you'll know how to defend it. And in fact, when I'm rolling with someone, especially with higher belts, people a lot better than me, my professor, it's not, yes, I am reacting to what he or she is doing, but even more than that, I'm anticipating what that person needs to do. Like I'm anticipating the next step, if that makes sense. I'm anticipating, okay, they need to swing their leg over, or they need to break my grip on my gi, or they need to hook my leg, or they need to break my posture. And I'm always thinking ahead. I'm not so much thinking when someone's progressing to the point where I feel they're going for a submission. I'm not thinking of just, okay, let me get out of the mount, right? Or let me escape the mount, or let me, you know, escape turtle, or get this person off my back. What I'm thinking is, based upon where this person's hand is, where their foot is on my hip, how they're positioning their body to mine, what is it that they're needing or wanting to get to that next step, to progress to that next step, to progress, to finally get the tap. And then my job is to delay, to stop, impede, and basically obstruct, if you will, their ability to continue progressing towards the tap. And when you think defensively like that, guys, again, it's not like something where I'm saying you bump fist and you get in the turtle or the fetal position and you just lay there like a rock. No, you roll hard, you try your offense, and you try to get good position, try to stay on top when you're on top. But defensively, if you focus on having a strong defensive game, then again, that benefits your offensive game as well. And also, guys, I think it really, from a longevity standpoint, from an injury standpoint, I think you get the benefits of a roll. You get the benefits of the physical benefits of jiu-jitsu, the cardio. You get the mental, the psychological, the mental chess, if you will, because playing defense and making yourself very difficult to tap, it's not easy, guys. It's very, very difficult, actually, to have a strong defensive game. And I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, but since I got my blue belt, blue, purple, brown, and then to black, I've only been tapped twice, and both were as purple belt. And I remember specifically the exact moment who tapped me. But again, I don't say that's to say that whatever. I mean, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, I'm basically a peon, right? But the reason I say that with some pride is I haven't just been rolling with, like, my grandfather or my 8-year-old son. I've rolled with a lot of tough opponents, black belts, bigger guys, stronger guys, younger guys, females as well. And I've only been tapped twice through my colored belts. And the reason for that is I always had a very defensive mindset. And my goal was to, if I got into a bad position, to make it extremely difficult for someone to tap me. And I remember one of my professors once said, hey, I forgot why we were on the topic, but he mentioned something like, you guys should be practice good defensive techniques and defend yourself, but don't defend so hard like Brian, or don't resist the tap so much as Brian, because you might get hurt, something to that regard. And the thing is, if someone has me in a legitimate hold, a lock, a strangle, or whatever, a heel hook, I'm gonna tap. But if they don't have the proper technique, I'm not gonna tap. Obviously, if I feel like I'm about to pass out, I'm not gonna go to sleep, or if I feel someone's gonna pop, I'm certainly gonna tap. And those 2 times that I did tap, I tapped because it was on, and I was either gonna go out or something was gonna get snapped. And I wouldn't even wait till that point. But the thing is, I feel like I'm not helping my training partner. I'm not helping the person I'm rolling with if I'm just, okay, you got 2 hands on my collar, I don't feel anything, but let me tap, or on a straight arm, like, okay, I'm just gonna tap. I might do that with like a white belt or someone who's very early in their journey. I'm trying to give them confidence. But specifically, or especially if someone who's not, just starting off, or doesn't need that kind of extra assurance that, hey, you're on the right track, or hey, yes, you have the arm correct, or yes, your knees are closely together and your pressure is good, I'm going to make sure that they earn it, and then specifically that they have the right technique, the right leverage, the right force, the right everything, the right angle. So if they're not rolling with me, who, hey, I'm Brian, I'm easygoing, but they're rolling with someone else who's not going to tap because of ego or because of whatever, and they're like, hey, what the hell's going on? Brian tapped this all the time, but now this person's not doing it. Then they question their technique. Then it's just something where I think you should really make sure the person has it and has it properly before you tap. And for me, again, the reason why I didn't, it's not that people didn't try, it's not that I didn't have extremely hard rolls where I got close to tapping, it's just I really always kind of focused on that quote that I saw from Hodger, which was, my goal was to become untappable, where someone could not tap me, like to basically have the best defense that I could possibly have. And for me, I think that I was able to accomplish that because I don't train as much anymore as I would like to, just work and kids and YouTube and everything. But when I was going 5-6 days a week, and training, for 4, 5, 6 years, again, I rolled constantly. I rolled a lot. I rolled with a lot of different people, and it was very, 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 very difficult for people to tap me because, again, I had that mentality of I'm purposely working on my defense, right? I'm not just going out there and spazzing out or just kicking people in the face or just holding on to my arm for the sake of it. I have no idea what I'm doing. Obviously, I watched a lot of videos. I took a lot of private classes. I tried to gain as much knowledge as I could. Again, Henry Aiken's an incredible source. I watched a lot of Gracie videos. But yeah, I studied a lot. I think that, having a good defense, again, it'll benefit your offensive game. It will actually help you progress quicker in jiu-jitsu because it's very difficult, guys, especially as a younger belt, to just go in there and dominate people, right? To just start flying triangles and heel hooking people. And because, again, that takes time, timing and weight distribution and all those things that comes with experience and feel. Sometimes when you're rolling, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. It's just feel, right? But defense is much easier to kind of learn and to kind of get good experience with, because again, yes, you are reacting, especially early on, you're reacting more to what the person's doing, and as you get better, as you get more experience, your defense is more anticipatory, right? Where, at least for me, I'm anticipating the next step and the next step and the next step, and then trying to impede. But I think defense, at least from a lower belt, a white belt, blue belt, even a lower purple belt, it'll benefit your game immensely and much more quickly, because you don't have to, so you certainly don't have to have the physical attributes, strength, power, and speed, explosiveness to have a great defense, right? You're reacting a lot of times to those things. But again, that doesn't make your jiu-jitsu game any less impressive or any less legitimate, or make you less of an whatever athlete or anything, even if you're a hobbyist. It's just it's a different perspective, it's a different approach to the game. And finally, guys, just to wrap this up, not to bore you guys too much, but I think in terms of longevity, in terms of preventing injuries, because again, if you're injured, you can't roll, you can't enjoy jiu-jitsu, and you're just basically waiting for your ribs to heal or waiting for your broken bone to set or heal. I think defense, having a defensive mentality also helps, because a lot of times when people get injured, it's because they're trying to be, trying to get a tap, right? They're doing a flying triangle, they're jumping on someone's back, or they're going for something and they trip or they fall wrong. Defensively, I think it helps, especially for older players in jiu-jitsu, guys. It's a more methodical approach. Obviously, you're reacting a little bit more than if you're just purely on offense. Again, you're still learning, you're still progressing. It takes a lot of skill, guys, and a lot of effort to build a great defensive game. It's not just something like, oh, you just check a box, you put on a belt, you have a great defensive game. I think having a good defensive game is as difficult, if not more difficult, than having a good offensive game. And it's very clear when you roll with people who do not have a good defensive game or have not spent any amount of time on that, because you clearly see, like, when they're on top, when they're the aggressor, or they're against someone who does not have a good defensive game, they're dominating. They look incredible, right? But the minute they're in a bad position, they're in mount, or you have their back, within like a minute, they're tapping. It's because they don't put themselves in those positions. Even mentally, they don't put themselves in those positions. And if their offensive game is put in check or neutralized, then it's basically game over. So I think, again, from a preservation and injury prevention, longevity, especially for older jiu-jitsu players, I think having a good defensive game will definitely benefit you immensely, and it'll help you prolong your career as well. Because if you think about it, as an older jiu-jitsu player, which again I am as well, most of these people, most of the people in your academy are going to be younger, stronger, more explosive, cross-training. They're athletes. They're in the competition classes, and for the most part, you're going to be defending yourself against their offensive tactics and movement. So if you don't have a good defense, guys, then it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. So just want to give you guys kind of my rants and ravings and musings about that. But I really think having a strong defense will benefit you guys, especially early on in your jiu-jitsu journey. Both it'll benefit your offensive game, it'll also help you with your longevity, and help prevent injuries as well. So hope you guys liked the video. Give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe, leave a comment below. Appreciate all the support, love. Hope to catch you guys on the next channel. Take care. Next video, not channel. Take care. Bye-bye.